Carling Street, which is a symbol of progress and community here in Hamilton's vibrant Westdale Village community. Today we gather to celebrate a milestone in providing much-needed rental housing. The NINCO team, alongside our property management firm, Greenman Corp., would like to sincerely extend our sincere gratitude to all levels of government here today in providing their support and enthusiasm in bringing more rental stock to Ontario. Together, we are fostering a brighter future where every individual can find a place to call home. Thank you for being thank you for joining us today and being part of our incredible journey. I'd now like to pass the mic off to local MP Chad Collins.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us with the announcement. I'll start with the land acknowledgement. City of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered between the lakes purchased 1792 between the Crown and Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. And thanks again for your attendance today. I can say as a former city councillor who was on council when we approved this project, as well as the former president of City Housing Hamilton, that the National Housing Strategy has been a game changer for not just affordable housing providers, but for the private sector too, who want to venture into the affordable housing sector. Since the program was announced many years ago, the federal government has invested almost $90 billion in programs that assist not just the affordable housing sector and municipalities, but provinces, territories, and the private sector. And that's why we're here today. This summer, MP Hefner and Minister Tassi and I have attended numerous housing investments here in Hamilton. The first one we attended was $122 million, I think, for the Roxborough project in my riding. Investments that help the private sector build affordable housing units. And piggyback on that one, sorry, the announcement also included new units at the Queenston Traffic Circle for our rapid housing program. Just 2 weeks ago, Minister Tassi and MP Hefner and I attended the Wesley Urban Ministries development on Ferguson Avenue, another rapid housing investment, housing some of our most vulnerable populations, taking them from our encampments here in the city and into transitional housing. And so when I look at the National Housing Strategy and the programs that we offer, and some of those that will be announced today, I think it's important to recognize that those programs help people all along the housing continuum, from those that are getting out of encampments and into a new place to call home, to those looking for an affordable place to call home in terms of possibly being first-time home buyers. And so I'm pleased to be joined by our guests today. And today's announcement, as I mentioned, builds on the past investments and highlights, I think, our desire to continue to help those who are looking for an affordable place to call home. At this time, I'd like to welcome the Prime Minister back to Hamilton and to share with us today's investment and what it means for those that will call this facility or this building their home, as well as some other announcements across Hamilton. Mr. Prime Minister, welcome back to Hamilton.
Thank you so much. Bonjour tout le monde. Je veux commencer par remercier Chad pour son mot d'ouverture et je suis très heureux d'être ici avec Philomena et Lisa. I really want to thank and celebrate the fact that we're back here together, Andrea, Mayor of Hamilton, obviously a great partner on this project and on so many things. It's always great to see you. And Dan, thank you for your words as well. I spoke with Andrea earlier this year when I was here for a 3-day cabinet retreat about the need for more affordable housing. So I'm really happy to be here today for this important announcement. Hamilton is a thriving, growing community, and it's a sign of the strength and of all the economic activity that's going on here. But it also means that you need more places to live. So today, the federal government is investing millions of dollars to help support 214 homes for people and families here in Hamilton. This includes investments towards this rental housing unit being built here in Westdale on Carling, affordable housing in central Hamilton on Bay Street that will support people experiencing homelessness, particularly women and children, improved housing in Greenford on Clapham Road, including for seniors, and new affordable units in Lansdale on East Avenue that will help provide homes for Indigenous peoples in the community. The homes we're building today will help middle-class families and vulnerable people. And this builds on the work we've been doing to invest in housing here in Hamilton since day one. To date, we've built and repaired thousands of housing units in this community. Un des piliers importants de notre plan pour le logement, c'est d'augmenter l'offre. Et c'est exactement pourquoi on est réunis ici en construction. Mais on aide aussi les Canadiens à épargner pour acheter leur première maison. On le fait avec le nouveau compte d'épargne libre d'impôt pour l'achat d'une première propriété, qui est maintenant offert partout au pays, avec lequel vous pouvez économiser jusqu'à 40 000 $ sans payer d'impôts. En plus, on a des mesures pour mettre frein à la spéculation. Since 2015, we've helped nearly 2 million families and individuals get the housing they need, but we know there's lots more work to do. We have a plan, and we're working directly with municipalities right across the country. Our Housing Accelerator Fund is helping to increase supply and speed up construction by incentivizing cities and towns to get more homes built faster. Our most recent budget proposal put forward major funding for our urban, rural, and northern Indigenous housing strategy so we can meet the unique needs of Indigenous peoples. On pense aussi à l'initiative pour la création rapide de logements qui a dépassé nos attentes et a aidé à bâtir des milliers de logements abordables pour des personnes vulnérables. As Chad mentioned, the Rapid Housing Initiative has made a huge difference right across the country. There's a lot of work to do to help keep our country growing and make sure we're keeping up with demand while we keep building strong, diverse communities. And no order of government can do it alone. That's why our government takes an approach that is about direct, honest, and respectful collaboration, not just with all governments, but also with for-profit and not-for-profit partners. Now, the Conservative leader wants to pick fights, to bully communities into doing what he thinks is best, at the same time as he cuts investments in housing and in supports for families. We will be working directly with the leaders these communities elect, with the people who've chosen to represent them and their interests, and partner with them to build a stronger future. After all, confident communities invest in themselves and their future. That's what our government has been there to do consistently. We know that every city has its own needs, and today we're stepping up to help Hamilton. Andrea, I know this city has made a significant investment in this project too, and it's by finding ways to work together that we've been able to get these projects underway. It's great to see the federal government and the municipal government able to work together, and we're continuing to look for ways that are going to make direct, meaningful impacts in the lives of Canadians, particularly vulnerable and lower-income Canadians in great growing cities like Hamilton. It's by finding ways to work together we've been able to get these such projects underway, and the one right here is anticipated to be completed within the next 6 months. Notre gouvernement sait qu'il faut travailler en partenariat avec les villes dans le respect et la collaboration. Aujourd'hui, on voit un exemple d'un résultat positif. Because we know that keeping up with the cost of living is putting a lot of strain on families. So our government has made investments in making childcare more affordable, delivering dental care for kids who haven't been able to afford it up till now, increasing OAS for seniors over 75. We've delivered support through the grocery rebate that's helping 11 million people this month, and the Enhanced Canada Workers Benefit with more money up front to help Canadians through the year are the kinds of things that are making a huge difference. We know times are challenging right now for Canadians right across the country, but as a government, we're continuing to look at ways of putting money in your pockets while building for a stronger future. Throwing up our hands, saying things are broken, is not the way we're going to solve this. It's through partnership, it's through investment, it's through responsible, serious leadership that Canadians can get the support they need right now and be confident about the communities we're building together. But of all the cost of living challenges, we do know that housing is the most expensive thing. So today is about increasing housing supply, supporting Canadians, and helping people build the lives they want. I want to thank everyone who helped make this announcement possible today, including our hardworking MPs and the Mayor who've collaborated so incredibly well. I want to thank the hardworking construction workers, engineers, planners who are stepping up every day to do this even more. And of course, I look forward to the dedicated community neighbors all around who will be welcoming these people into their new homes. With that, I'm very happy to turn it over to Mayor Horvath. Andrea.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you kindly, Prime Minister. As I said to you when you arrived, I'm thrilled to have you back in the city of Hamilton, along with the MPs that represent our city. It is really important that we work together to solve the challenges that people of Hamilton face. And I know that, that your caucus members here, as well as other MPs, are very much on the same page when it comes to doing that work. And so on behalf of our city, I want to say thank you so very much for being with us. I want to thank MP Chad Collins, MP Lisa Hefner, Minister Philomena Tassi. Long time no see, folks. We were just having a chin wag on Friday, so it's great to be here today to really realize some of that discussion that we had the other day. Just last week, as folks might know, all Hamilton MPs, city staff, and a few of my council colleagues and I met to talk about the issue of affordable housing. And it was important, I think, to hear MP Collins talk about the continuum of housing. And the Prime Minister to identify that the housing need is great, from those most vulnerable who are living unhoused in our community, to working class folks and middle class folks that need to be able to have a home of their own that they can afford. And so this project really does, this announcement with all of the projects that it encompasses really does show that this kind of work can be done and that we can meet people's needs. Our federal members of parliament know, like I do, that the last few years have been hard for the people of Hamilton. This is something that the Prime Minister also just acknowledged. Life keeps getting more expensive. Too many people are struggling to pay their bills, to afford their homes and apartments, to find a place to live. A growing number of people in the city are in crisis. But we also know that we can keep this city affordable. We can make sure that everyone has a safe and affordable place to live. Because we cannot do it alone. We have to do it together. Keeping life affordable in Hamilton is something that requires all hands on deck. And you can see today that that's something that all of us agree upon. It takes our federal partners stepping up like they have today to provide $45 million in funding to help fund the urgent creation of more affordable housing. It takes amazing not-for-profit housing providers and members of Hamilton's private sector development community to come together and create important new mixed income communities like the one that will be built right here. And it takes all of my colleagues on City Council and our hardworking city staff to keep pushing these important initiatives forward. I was very pleased to hear the Prime Minister talk about the need to continue to push forward and to make sure that we are a confident city. And a confident city invests in itself. And that's exactly how I see things, and I know my council colleagues do as well. We need to do that so we can make important progress like we have done today. And I want to thank Ward 1 Councillor Maureen Wilson and Ward 3 Councillor Narinder Nan for being here. This is Maureen's ward, and Narinder, one of the developments is in her, I think 2 of the developments are in her ward as well. And she's also the chair of the president of the board of Community Housing Hamilton, which is a partner in one of the projects that's being announced today. Everyone at City Hall is absolutely focused on continuing this important work. And today's announcement includes $19 million in investments from the City of Hamilton, those investments that we were talking about a minute ago. Combined with the federal funding announced by Prime Minister Trudeau, today's combined investment will mean 200 more Hamilton families and individuals will have safe and affordable places to call home. This is the kind of thing. These are exactly the kinds of things that it takes to keep Hamilton affordable. This is what it takes to be able to ensure that people have a safe place to live, that people feel proud of their communities. For Canada to thrive, the people of Hamilton must be thriving. I get that, and I know that the Prime Minister and his team gets that too. And so, thank you, Prime Minister Trudeau. Thank you so much for your ongoing partnership and collaboration and for this amazing demonstration, yet again, of your commitment to the people of Hamilton. Very much appreciated. I believe now it's time for the Prime Minister to take some questions.
Thank you,
They
Mayor
may have
Horwath.
questions for you, too. It's all right with me.
Thank you, Mayor Horwath, and thank you, Prime Minister, and thank you, MP Collins. We will now move to 20 minutes of questions from media. Nous allons commencer avec 20 minutes pour les questions des médias. Une question, un suivi, one question, one follow-up, and we will begin with Global News Hamilton.
Hi, Prime Minister. This is Lisa Pileski with Global News Radio 900 CHML. So we were told that the affordable one-bedroom units in this particular build on Carling Street will be approximately $1,400 a month, with a max household income of $90,000 a year, and that ideal tenants for this build will be nurses. Just wondering if this is what is being considered affordable in Hamilton at this point, and what about the folks who are working in jobs where they make much less than that?
Right now, we're facing a real challenge around housing in terms of supply. There's simply not enough places for people to live right across the lower and middle income spectrum. And that's why projects like this moving forward, and this isn't the only project, as I mentioned, there's a bundle of projects the federal government investing in across the city with about $45 million that are going towards these over 200 new units, is a part of the solution. But we know there is a lot more to do. And I'll be blunt as well. Housing isn't a primary federal responsibility. It's not something that we have direct carriage of, but it is something that we can and must help with. That's something we disagreed with our previous Conservative colleagues when Stephen Harper's government, with Pierre Poilievre being a big part of it, pulled themselves entirely out of the housing business for 10 years. And there's a lot of missed opportunities through that. So from the time we got elected in 2015, we were committed to building a national housing strategy, which we announced in 2017, and in continuing to be there to layer in and show up. But you're right, it's not just the federal government that can solve this. That's why having a great partner in a visionary city and council and mayor looking for how we can build solutions that are going to make sense for people and take pressures off all spaces in housing, and the more we can do to draw the province to the table. I'd love to be able to share this stage right now, not just with the Mayor of Hamilton, but with the province. They need to be stepping up as well, particularly on affordable housing. That is something that the federal government is taking very seriously, but we need all of us to be working together on, and that's what we're here to continue to do. Je pense que c'est hyper important de comprendre qu'on va continuer d'être là pour investir dans du logement abordable. On sait qu'il y a énormément de défis pour les familles de faibles revenus et même de moyens revenus d'accéder à des logements. C'est pour ça qu'on est en train d'augmenter l'offre de logements avec des projets comme ça. On annonce 4 différents projets aujourd'hui pour un total de 45 millions de dollars du fédéral. Mais on va continuer d'être là pour investir. Mais souvenons-nous que ce n'est pas une responsabilité fondamentale du fédéral d'investir en logement. On est là avec des programmes, que ce soit l'accélérateur, que ce soit le programme de logement rapide. On est là avec des milliards de dollars parce qu'on sait que tout le monde doit être à la table. Mais on doit en faire plus. Pas seulement avec les municipalités, mais aussi avec les provinces. J'aurais bien aimé voir la province ici aujourd'hui, mais on va continuer de les encourager d'investir dans des logements plus abordables.
And follow-up is, one of the big crises that Hamiltonians are dealing with is rent evictions, where a landlord evicts a tenant to renovate the unit and then have people move in at a higher rent. There are tenants working with Hamilton Acorn who are fighting to stay in their units because they say if they get evicted, they'll be homeless. There's a woman I spoke with named Jen who is on ODSP. She can't afford $1,400 a month. So Acorn is asking the federal government to introduce a policy to give the right of first refusal to purchase apartment buildings to land trusts, co-ops, tenants, and nonprofits profits, and then backing that up through the creation of an acquisition fund that those entities can tap into to purchase those buildings. Is this something that your government would consider?
There are a lot of really innovative and responsible solutions out there, and a lot of great proposals, and that's why we work not only with municipalities, but with not-for-profit groups, with advocacy groups, with stakeholders who are there to try and support vulnerable people in this extremely difficult moment. As you well know, evictions and renovictions is entirely a provincial issue, but we will continue to look at ways that the federal government can be supportive by working directly with municipalities and also by encouraging the province to be thoughtful about how we make sure that the most vulnerable are protected. Even as we see growth in the economy, we see record numbers of jobs, which is good, but that can put pressure on folks, and that's where we have to be really thoughtful.
Prochaine question.
Catherine Brulotte, Radio-Canada. D'abord, sur la grève au port de Vancouver, on a vu maintenant les travailleurs refuser une entente qui avait été conclue entre la partie patronale et le syndicat. Qu'est-ce qui, selon vous, fait en sorte que c'est différent maintenant? Et si ça ne fonctionne pas à nouveau, que comptez-vous faire en termes d'intervention?
On continue de croire profondément que les meilleurs accords, les meilleures négociations, ça se passe à la table de négociation. Et c'est toujours ça qu'on va pousser. On a été en train à chaque étape de s'assurer que les négociations continuent. On sait à quel point un arrêt de travail va avoir un impact sur l'économie du pays, sur les fermiers, sur les manufacturiers à travers le pays, des exportateurs, des importateurs. C'est pour ça qu'on a de l'espoir que cette nouvelle offre, cette nouvelle solution qui est sur la table va être acceptable. Mais nous allons continuer d'être là pour s'assurer que les négociations continuent et qu'on puisse continuer de faire croître notre économie. I think one of the things that's been so important for us throughout is to be actively focused on keeping conversations going at the bargaining table. We know sometimes labor negotiations can be extremely difficult, but every step of the way, Minister O'Regan has been there to encourage people at the table to make sure that we're getting towards a solution. And yes, there have been concerns and worries about how things were unfolding over the past days, but we now have a situation where there is another offer, there is another potential deal on the table, and we're, as always, hopeful that that negotiation at the bargaining table continues to be at the center of what everyone needs to continue to do. I will point out, however, that I got a letter from the leader of the Conservative Party yesterday that highlighted that he's not following this issue very closely. He seemed unaware that there is actual constructive negotiations going on, and he's really choosing to play politics and just saying, oh, you got to fire people, you got to, impose back-to-work legislation. I will remind people that Pierre Poilievre was a key part of the government that was known for its anti-union legislation, 525 and 377, direct attacks on the rights of organized labor. So we don't take him particularly seriously when it comes to encouraging negotiations at the table to work. And on the flip side, when it came to convoy protesters shutting down the Canadian economy, causing hardship for people right across the country, he was there waving flags with them and egging them on. So he doesn't have an awful lot of credibility when it comes to this. Our serious, responsible government is going to continue to do the work necessary to both respect important negotiation processes that happen at the table and make sure we're there to ensure the Canadian economy is running smoothly and exporters and importers, producers and manufacturers are well served by our port facilities.
La situation en Haïti, maintenant, le Kenya propose de se déployer là-bas, de prendre un peu la tête des forces internationales. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez? Qu'est-ce que devrait être la position de l'ONU sur ça?
Bien, le Canada, depuis longtemps maintenant, est à la tête d'un groupe d'une vingtaine de différents pays pour aider en Haïti. Ça fait 3 décennies qu'on est là en Haïti à différents moments pour aider à contrer la violence, l'instabilité politique, une situation humanitaire épouvantable. Et on se retrouve quand même maintenant dans une situation qui est parmi les pires qu'on ait jamais vus, malgré 30 ans d'appui et d'investissement. Donc, on ne peut pas tout simplement continuer de faire la même chose et espérer que les choses vont changer. C'est pour ça que le Canada est là pour travailler directement avec la police nationale haïtienne pour qu'eux-mêmes puissent amener des solutions de sécurité. On est là pour investir. On a annoncé des centaines de milliards de dollars, centaines de millions de dollars d'investissement et on va continuer d'être là. On est là pour investir dans des solutions humanitaires. On est là pour mettre de la pression sur la classe politique en Haïti qui n'est pas en train de prendre au sérieux la responsabilité qu'ils ont de faire des compromis et rétablir la sécurité. On est en train de livrer des sanctions sur ces élites économiques en Haïti qui continuent de profiter de l'instabilité et continuent de financer les gangs. Je suis très, très content de voir que beaucoup de pays veulent s'impliquer pour aider et on va être là pour continuer le travail à l'ONU. J'ai d'ailleurs eu une conversation sur Haïti avec le secrétaire général Guterres juste la semaine passée quand j'étais à New York pour parler de ce qu'on peut continuer de faire sur Haïti, mais le Canada va continuer de faire partie de la solution à côté des Haïtiens qui doivent être au cœur de toute solution qu'on met de l'avant.
Hi, Prime Minister. Al Sweeney from CHCH here in Hamilton. So here in Hamilton, we've got tent encampments with 165 people or more living in these encampments. The city's trying to be compassionate. They don't know what to, they haven't decided at this point how to handle it. And winter's coming up in several months before long-term projects like this can kick in. Any advice for Hamilton, what it should do here?
Well, actually, a number of these units I've heard will start to be available as of this fall, so that's going to take off some of the pressure as well. Since 2015, we've invested about $365 million in housing in Hamilton that has resulted in creation of and refurbishment of a lot of units, but there's more to do. In terms of homelessness specifically, through Reaching Home, partnering with the City of Hamilton, we're talking about directly $60 million over the past years that we've put forward to help people in Hamilton. But this continues to be a challenge that we are very much seized with, that we're looking to different solutions. Many of the investments we're announcing today, the $45 million, will be available to the most vulnerable people, including people who are currently in encampments. But you're absolutely right. We have to keep working. We have to keep working together. And that's where the collaboration with the City of Hamilton, the compassionate leadership that Andrea has been showing, the presence to be funding partners that the federal government is doing, is part of that solution. Now, when conservatives look at tent encampments, simply throw up their hands and say, it's broken, we should cut funding because it doesn't work, that's exactly the wrong path. We need to be investing more to support people right now, even as we build greater economic opportunities into the future. And that compassionate, grounded in reason and science approach is what we're always going to work on together with a great partner like the Mayor of Hamilton.
So a follow-up question for you. The BC port strike. We've also got National Steel Car that's been on strike in Hamilton for several weeks. And Metro grocery store workers have gone out on strike. They say they can't afford to shop in the stores where they work. There's every reason to believe we're going to see more of this as contracts expire. How are we going to handle this with more people asking for higher wages?
Well, I think we've understood that these past years have been extremely difficult. Inflation put a lot of pressure on household budgets right across the board. And this inflation, which was caused by the war in Ukraine hitting energy and food prices, this inflation that was caused by the hangover from the pandemic that has disrupted supply chains around the world, global inflation is a challenge that everyone is facing. Now, here in Canada, we have seen inflation come down faster than most of our peer countries. We have the lowest inflation among peer countries right now. We're down below 3%, back in the Bank of Canada range. But we know that food prices, as you point out, are still too high. That's why we're working with grocery stores through the Competition Bureau to make sure that everything is fair for people. But as we see inflation come down, we do have to be careful about a wage price spiral increase where inflation starts increasing once again because costs continue to go up. We want to keep inflation down so we can have interest rates start coming down again to help people be able to afford their own homes, at the same time as we're creating more jobs and more growth in vibrant cities like Hamilton. So we're going to keep on it. We're going to continue to make sure that people can succeed, that they're getting the right wages to be able to get through these difficult times. But we're going to continue to make sure that Canada is growing great jobs for the future as international companies and investors are looking increasingly at our stability, our optimism, our ambitious, and Canadians' ability to get things done as a great place to be part of.
Next question.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Laura Stone, Globe and Mail. You've spoken a lot during this press conference about Pierre Poilievre, and you've used multiple answers to kind of go after him and his policies. He's been going after you for a long time on this issue of inflation, affordability, and of course, housing. You just shuffled your cabinet, you elevated Sean Fraser to housing. Is there a recognition, perhaps, or a sensitivity on your part that he has tapped into something that people are very concerned about, and do you feel threatened now by his leadership?
No, what is of concern to us is the fact that there are so many people having trouble making ends meet. And that's why we moved forward over the past year with significant investments to help Canadians. Investments like ensuring that kids under 12 have access to dental care. And let's pause on that for a second, because that's something that is making a huge and real difference. We're talking hundreds of thousands of families who sent their kids to the dentist for the first time over the past year. Pierre Poilievre, to bring him up again, as you brought him up, voted against dental care. He said providing dental care to low-income Canadians would just feed inflation. Well, there's two things wrong with that. First of all, we have seen inflation come down now to the lowest levels of most of our partners, back into the Bank of Canada range, which is a very good thing, which shows that our targeted investments have actually been able to bring down inflation even while we're supporting Canadians. And the second piece of it is that so he was wrong about its impact on inflation. And he chose to vote against and to stand against and try to block in the House delivering of dental care for vulnerable Canadians. Why would you do that? Why would you say that dental care is fine for MPs and their families, and it's not inflationary for people to send their kids to the dentist if you have money to do it, but to let low-income people and people who are otherwise struggling have kids with a brighter smile and vote against that? In the name of protecting from higher inflation, when inflation has steadily been going down? That's him making baseless arguments, completely disconnected from fact, but playing on the very real fear, anxiety, and frustration that people are out there. That yes, there are challenges around the cost of living. But you don't solve problems by scaring people, by stirring up anger. He's hoping that he's going to be able to get votes out of it, but that's not how you build a stronger economy. Confident communities, confident countries invest in themselves. His solution on anything is cut housing supports, cut dental supports, bring forward a two-tier healthcare. You haven't heard him talk about the investments we're making in healthcare because he doesn't want to have anything to say about that. Because these are real measures that are going to be helping Canadians. His answer to everything is cuts and be angry. That's not Canada. That's not how we build a stronger future. That's not how we've gotten through the challenging times we've had in the past. Canadians roll up their sleeves and get to work and build and invest in themselves and their communities. That's what we do. We partner with people. We don't pick fights with mayors. That's where the anger that he is drumming up is dangerous for Canadians who would much rather work hard and build a strong future than throw up their hands and say, oh, It's all terrible, it's all broken. Let's all stay home. No, that's not who Canadians are. So I won't be stirring up anger. I will be pointing out where his proposals are irresponsible and unserious. But I will stay focused on solving the challenges Canadians are facing rather than exploiting them for political gain, like Pierre Poilievre does.
Thank you.
Okay. On sait très bien que les gens sont en train de faire face à d'énormes défis, que ce soit au niveau du logement, que ce soit au niveau du coût de la vie. Et beaucoup de ces impacts sont à cause de l'inflation mondiale qu'on est en train de vivre. Or, au Canada, on a pu réduire l'inflation en faisant des investissements ciblés pour aider les familles, que ce soit le rabais à l'épicerie, que ce soit l'aide pour les soins dentaires, que ce soit de couper les frais de garderie en moitié à travers le pays. On est là pour faire les investissements qui aident, en même temps qu'on voit l'inflation continuer de baisser. On est maintenant à 2,8 %, ce qui est meilleur que beaucoup de nos pays pairs. Mais on sait que les gens en arrachent encore. C'est pour ça qu'on va continuer d'être là pour investir. Or, M. Poilievre, il prône l'austérité, les coupures, et veut susciter plus de colère et d'angoisse pour les citoyens. Mais ce n'est pas responsable parce que ça ne va pas créer des solutions. C'est pas comme ça qu'on va bâtir du logement. C'est pas comme ça qu'on va aider les gens à avoir de meilleurs emplois. C'est en investissant de façon responsable, stratégique, en s'ancrant dans les plus vulnérables pour les soulever, pas en prônant l'austérité et la colère. Ça, on peut en avoir sur l'Internet, là. On n'en a pas de besoin dans nos politiques.
Thank you. I did bring him up, but you brought him up first. For a follow-up question, I wanted to ask about Mayor Olivia Chow's requests to the federal government. She wants a reception center funded by your government, near Pearson, so asylum seekers can check in and the city can be aware of where they're going and what their needs are. And she's also asking for more money. I mean, you saw the images of people sleeping on the street once they arrived in Canada. What is your response to the reception center, and what was your reaction when you saw what was happening on the streets of Toronto?
I just had a great meeting with Mayor Chow just a few days ago, and we're going to continue to work together in constructive ways. It is unacceptable in a country like Canada that vulnerable refugees be having to sleep in the streets, or vulnerable asylum claimants have to be sleeping in the streets. But the solution on that requires all of us to step up together. Yes, the federal government will be there, but when it comes to settling asylum seekers, again, municipalities and provinces have the large part of responsibility on that. Yes, the federal government is part of the mix on that, and we will be there, as we have with the announcement of $212 million across the country, with almost $100 million directly for the City of Toronto. We will be there to work and to hear proposals for creative solutions that can help solve this. And I know that Minister Miller is very, very excited to be able to move forward on solutions to continue to work the great work done by his predecessor, Sean Fraser.
Hi, my name is Aura. I'm with CBC Hamilton. So Mayor Andrea Horwath asked you for $9 million to address the refugee and asylum seekers ending up in the shelter system or living on the streets. Do you plan on giving the city that money?
We actually had a brief chat about that earlier. Our governments are engaged, looking together for how we can work together to solve this. As I said, it's unacceptable that vulnerable refugees and asylum seekers be sleeping in the streets, and we need to work together, and we will be there to partner and make sure that we can solve that. Would you like to say a couple words on that?
Sure. Thanks, Prime Minister. I appreciate the question, and the Prime Minister is accurate. I did receive a letter from the new minister. We identified where some of the challenges lie, and we've made a commitment to work together to try to resolve the challenges that exist, because people should not be in the situation that they are coming to our country, whether they're asylum seekers or refugees and living on our streets. I don't think anybody can accept that. And I think we just need to recall as well, or identify as well, that we have a lot of pressure in our shelter system right now. We have lots of folks who are unhoused, and this announcement today tries to address some of those issues as well. The root cause of homelessness or houselessness is one of the facts that we don't have enough affordable housing. And so I think we need to kind of contextualize everything in the commitment that we're all making to ensure that affordable housing is available and for people who need supports to be able to be successfully housed. We are working on that as well as a city. And another issue was raised around on evictions. We're working on that as well as a city. There are many, many solutions, and both the federal government and the city of Hamilton are working very, very hard to bring as many of those solutions to fruition as we possibly can and as quickly as we can. Thank you.
Next question, please.
Kevin Winter, Hamilton Spectator. The provincial government has blamed the federal government's Carmen plan as the main cause of inflation. Higher grocery prices, higher everything, actually, and it's on your shoulders.
The federal price on pollution not only is a way to fight climate change, but it's a way to put money back in people's pockets. 8 out of 10 Canadians in jurisdictions where the federal price on pollution applies get more money back from that price on pollution every year than it costs them. We are seeing the impact of increased extreme weather events right across the country, and we're seeing the cost of those impacts, not just fiscally on provinces and municipalities struggling, but also in lives, in homes lost, in anxiety about the future. We need to continue to step up in meaningful ways, not just to fight climate change, but to incentivize businesses and our economy to create those solutions and implement those solutions that are going to slow down the pace of climate change. Canada can and will continue to lead on this. Companies like Volkswagen, like ArcelorMittal, Dofasco, making decisions to invest in Canada, in Ontario, is linked to the fact that they know we are taking seriously both the opportunities and the challenges. Unfortunately, Conservative politicians continue to attack our plan to fight climate change and put more money back in people's pockets without proposing any concrete plan to either support Canadians through these challenging times or fight climate change for future generations. We're going to continue to demonstrate what Canadians know. You cannot have a plan for the future of the economy if you don't have a plan to fight climate change. That's what we'll continue to do.
Last question.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Prime Minister. My name is Kieran, and I'm with the Canadian Press. We were wondering what your thinking was behind putting the infrastructure and housing files together under one minister, and if we can expect major new policies as a result.
Sean Fraser has demonstrated an ability to manage difficult files and to move forward on ways that really impact Canadians positively. And that's why I'm excited to see him in this new housing and infrastructure file. We recognize, as I said earlier, the federal government isn't the primary driver of housing solutions. But when we're talking about infrastructure investments, whether it's public transit, or other types of infrastructures, having the housing file associated with that so we can increase densification, as I know, is a big problem, a big question here in Hamilton around the province's plans with LRT to invest in the densification of housing. These are the kinds of things that having a minister able to carry and lead on both of those files together is one that we're very excited about.
Thank you. That will conclude today's press conference. Merci. Ça va mettre fin à la conférence presse.
Merci tout le monde.